What happens when America's sweetheart of home renovation finds herself in the hottest seat on television, facing questions that no one saw coming? The cameras were rolling, the audience was packed, and what started as a routine promotional appearance turned into television gold that had everyone talking. This is the story of how a simple morning show interview spiraled completely out of control, leaving viewers stunned and one very famous guest storming off set. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because you won't believe how this unfolds. Joanna Gaines walked onto the Today Show set that morning with her usual radiant smile. She wore a flowing, cream-colored blouse and dark jeans that perfectly captured her signature style. The studio audience erupted in applause as she waved, clearly thrilled to see the Magnolia Network star in person. Jenna Bush Hager greeted her with a warm embrace that suggested this would be another feel-good segment about home, design, and family values. "Joanna, we are so excited to have you here," Jenna began, settling comfortably into her chair as the applause faded. "Your new book is stunning, and flipping through those pages just makes me want to redesign my entire house." Joanna laughed, that genuine, familiar sound that had endeared her to millions over the years. Everything about the opening moments felt easy, charming, and exactly what viewers expected. But then the conversation slowly shifted. Jenna's co-host leaned forward with interest, asking how Joanna and Chip managed to work together so seamlessly. Joanna answered with practiced warmth, explaining their complementary strengths and mutual trust. But the moment the topic leaned toward Magnolia's influence and responsibilities, something flickered on Joanna's face, brief, tense, but unmistakable. Jenna picked up her notes again, but this time her tone changed subtly. "There's been discussion online about some of Magnolia's recent business decisions," she began. Joanna's smile tightened. "I'm not sure what specific concerns you mean," she replied, maintaining composure, but with a stiffness that hadn't been there moments earlier. Jenna continued anyway. "Reports about labor practices, working conditions, wage disputes. I know these aren't details you personally handle, but people look to you for answers." The air shifted as quickly as flipping a switch. Joanna's shoulders tensed, and her expression turned guarded. If viewers sensed unease, the cameras captured it in crystal-clear detail. Joanna attempted to redirect, insisting she was told the segment would be about the book, design, inspiration, family. But Jenna didn't back down. She insisted that discussing workplace fairness aligned with Magnolia's values. And just like that, the warmth in the studio evaporated, replaced with tension thick enough to silence the entire room. Joanna tried to maintain her composure as the questions sharpened. "We take our responsibilities seriously," she insisted, her voice firm but controlled. But Jenna continued pressing. "Taking responsibility means addressing concerns when they arise," she said, referencing former employees and overtime complaints. The audience watched in stunned silence as Joanna's expression hardened. She demanded to know the source of these concerns, questioning whether they came from disgruntled employees or competitors with ulterior motives. It was the first time she openly pushed back, and the tension only grew. Jenna's co-host attempted to defuse the situation, but the conversation had already derailed. Joanna's irritation broke through her composed public persona. She argued that Magnolia employed hundreds of people and worked with numerous contractors, and without specifics, she couldn't address anything meaningfully. Jenna countered that they were giving her an opportunity to set the record straight. Joanna countered that blindsiding her on live TV wasn't journalism, it was a stunt. That word, stunt, hit the room like a shockwave. Jenna's posture stiffened, but she stayed seated, responding with a coolness that only escalated things further. "We're talking about real people," she said, "with real concerns." Joanna stood, visibly upset, calling the interview an ambush and criticizing the show for presenting vague allegations without context. Audience members exchanged uneasy looks as the argument continued. Joanna insisted that if these concerns were real, the individuals should have contacted Magnolia directly instead of going to the media. Jenna insisted that the show had documentation and witness statements. Joanna demanded to know why none of these sources were present. Every sentence seemed to raise the temperature. Jenna's co-host attempted again to steer the conversation back to process and policy. asking how Magnolia handled internal concerns. Joanna answered sharply that proper channels existed, and any legitimate business would already have systems in place. But she refused to let the morning show frame unverified claims as fact. Jenna, unwavering, argued that workers sometimes fear retaliation and feel safer speaking to journalists. Joanna shot back that workers should pursue legal remedies rather than fueling media controversy. One by one, lines were drawn. The co-host looked increasingly uncomfortable, but neither Joanna nor Jenna was willing to yield. Every attempt to calm things only created new openings for arguments, and the cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of a confrontation. No one had predicted when the segment was booked. The studio atmosphere had completely transformed. From cheerful morning chatter to a full-blown standoff, Joanna's frustration continued to rise as Jenna accused her of dismissing employee concerns. Joanna argued that journalism required research, verification, and fairness, none of which she believed were present in this segment. She accused the show of stirring drama and chasing ratings. Some audience members shifted uneasily, while others held up phones, clearly aware they were witnessing a viral moment unfold. Jenna reacted strongly to the claim that the show was exploiting workers' experiences. She emphasized that their job was to ask hard questions of public figures who built brands on values. Joanna countered with force, arguing that her family had built their business from the ground up with integrity, revitalizing communities and employing hundreds. She accused Jenna of reducing years of effort to a sensational narrative. The back and forth intensified. Jenna argued that success didn't guarantee fair treatment for all employees. Joanna fired back that context mattered. 5 complaints in a decade among hundreds of workers did not constitute a pattern of abuse. Jenna insisted they had evidence of systematic concerns. Joanna demanded specifics, and when none were given, her patience wore thin. The co-host, clearly struggling, attempted once more to suggest a follow-up interview where Joanna could come prepared. Joanna rejected the idea, pointing out that the show's choices had already damaged trust. She accused the production team of misleading her about the interview's purpose. Jenna argued that accountability didn't require advance permission. Joanna insisted that journalism required transparency and balance, not ambush tactics. The energy in the room felt combustible. Jenna claimed the show had documentation and statements on record from workers. Joanna pointed out that Magnolia had created jobs, revitalized Waco, and brought tourism and opportunity to their community. She argued that a few unhappy employees didn't invalidate the positive impact Magnolia had made. Jenna's expression tightened as she stated that those employees still deserved fair treatment. Joanna insisted they were treated fairly and that no company was perfect. The co-host desperately looked for a cue to cut to commercial, but the argument kept spiraling. Both women were determined not to retreat, and the audience, completely silent now, watched as the most unexpected confrontation in morning show history continued to escalate without any sign of slowing. By this point, the tension felt too heavy for the cheerful studio environment to contain. Joanna's voice grew sharper as she argued that Magnolia's employees were treated with respect, and that any legitimate concerns should be addressed through proper internal channels. Jenna insisted that some workers felt those channels weren't effective, and that journalists had a duty to bring their voices to light. Joanna's frustration intensified. She accused the show of turning legitimate business complexities into entertainment drama. She argued that the segment had shifted from a conversation into an attack on her values, her business, and her family's reputation. Jenna fired back that holding powerful figures accountable wasn't an attack, it was part of their responsibility as journalists. The co-host, nearly out of words, tried one final time to encourage calm, but the moment had passed. Joanna's patience was gone. "My general philosophy," she said sharply, "is that adults handle issues directly. They don't run to the media before addressing concerns with the people responsible." Jenna responded by questioning whether workers truly felt safe speaking up internally. Joanna countered that if they didn't, they could pursue legal remedies instead of contributing to morning show theatrics. Jenna insisted that the stories they received were credible and documented. Joanna demanded specifics. None were given. Audience members continued recording, aware that this moment would dominate online conversation for days. Joanna emphasized the positive impact Magnolia had made: job creation, community revitalization, tourism growth. Jenna countered that economic impact didn't excuse unfair treatment. Joanna accused the show of attempting to villainize her for the sake of a narrative. Jenna accused Joanna of being unaccustomed to being challenged. That line froze the room. Joanna went still, then straightened. Her voice dropped into a calm finality that left no room for negotiation. She declared that journalism required fairness and accuracy, neither of which were present here. She said the show was exploiting concerns for ratings and sensationalism. Jenna countered that they were holding her accountable. Joanna shook her head, stepped back, and delivered her final words. She was done. She walked toward the edge of the set, no longer willing to engage. The audience remained completely silent. Jenna stood still, breathing hard. The co-host looked lost, and the cameras captured every second as Joanna Gaines, the beloved face of Magnolia, stormed off the Today Show set, ending one of the most dramatic and unexpected moments in morning television history.